Welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great. We just had a great show on IG, so I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Oh gosh. You know, when we come off our IG show, I'm always on this high because it is so much fun. There is so much engagement. I just adore the people and their questions and their comments. I can't be any happier like when we come off IG. So I'm like you, Jen, excited and thrilled. So it's like, it was so good. And I always say, like, I truly mean this. The best shows are when the community is involved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And, I always translate it to, when you speak and you're in front of a room and the audience is like staring at you like they're bored. Oh. I will take some responsibility for it, but there are just some people who nothing could move them, and it's the same thing when you're on these lives and anything online, the way that the audience interacts has such a huge impact on how you show up. And it just makes you like, well, yeah, we're on this platform right now.
I know. It's like, come on, folks. So here we are. We're streaming live. We're streaming live on 3 different Facebook pages. Seriously, 3 different Facebook pages, 2 different Twitter pages, our YouTube page, your page is Jen, right? So it's like we're on 3 different platforms, 8 different pages right now. And we want you to contribute to this conversation because it's so important. Like, we have so much fun. Do you know that you can type in your answers and we'll answer whatever question you might have or share your comment? So be part of the conversation. All right, let's just jump right into it. But before we do that, let's tell the folks, like, if they miss any part of this, where they can go and check it out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys ever want to catch past episodes, you can always go down there, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can catch a lot of the different things we've talked about. Amazing stuff, and it's lots of fun. So definitely check us out on YouTube, The Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen.
Thank you so much for telling them that. Yeah, because if you missed any part of this, you definitely want to check out this show right today, this episode, or in our previous episodes. And also on our page, we give tips about life, love, money matters. And this is what I wanted to mention. We also are going to be giving some tips on things for the emerging entrepreneur. If you want to start a business, if you're just in the beginning phases of your business, we're going to be giving out some really helpful tips for those emerging entrepreneurs. Some of the things that we don't talk about or aren't going to talk about, you want to cover that, Jen?
Yes. So, a lot of things that we encounter often are people that have an idea, which is great. And maybe you're thinking like, oh, how do I make money off of this? Or how do I turn this into a business or whatnot? And sometimes we get so focused on the logistics. That isn't something that's bad. That's not something that's wrong. It's nothing like that. But here's what we have found in our experience when we talk to people that are in this very, very beginning stage. And this is why we call you emerging entrepreneurs. You're in the beginning stages. It's kind of like when I was in finance and you look at emerging markets. You're not quite the United States, but you're trying to grow your economy, right?
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
Emerging markets. Yeah. So it's an emerging entrepreneur. And so what happens is, get excited, and that's great. And then you want to focus like, oh, do I need to call an attorney? Do I need to set up my LLC? Do I need to start, do I need to set up my corporation? Do I need to file with the city? And what about my taxes? And do I need to get a logo and do that website? And that is great. Those are important. And that's what this is not. And I'll tell you why. Because you can't do that stuff if you haven't defined what it is that you're doing. What is your message? Who are you serving? What is your product? What is your service? And that is where we see where you will get stuck. Because I know I've been there, and you're trying to do all the logistics, but if you don't know what the foundational stuff is, if you don't even know what you're doing, who you're serving, what you're trying to say, can you imagine how difficult this is? on this side, logistics, because you're trying to do step 10 when you haven't even done 1 through 3.
Right.
And so you have to start somewhere and you have to get that clear. And I'm telling you, this happens so freaking often when I'm working with branding and design clients. They want to design a logo. They want to start creating a brand and all this other stuff. But none of these things that we just brought up have been addressed. So we don't go anywhere. And then we're trying to do all this legwork and foundational stuff because you can't. If you want to do it right, you don't just, okay, I'm gonna vent. You don't just get on Canva and pick a cute little graphic and some cute type that looks like handwritten script, and then that's your logo. It's not based on anything.
Right.
And this is why companies pay thousands of dollars to get this straight, because we identify what those values are. We identify what that is going to mean for you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, all those things. So by the time you get to the logistics, it is all going to make sense.
Yeah.
It's going to flow better. So it's so important that you do these things in the right order and the right steps, because a lot of people are doing it backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you said, the analogies that you use, you know, being that you're a graphic designer and you do these logos. I know a lot of times you can be working with people, and even when I sit down or when people ask me, hey, I want you to be on this board, or I want you to be on this, this panel.
Yeah.
We talk about things like values. We talk about the purpose and the why. We talk about what value you're providing your consumer or your client before we get to the logo, because the logo is going to represent all that information, all that data, all that research that you've done before you get to, oh, I'm going to go apply for my LLC. Oh, I'm going to go get my logo done. Oh, because when you meet with that graphic designer and you don't know that other information, that graphic designer is going to be sitting there going, okay. And I'm sure, Jen, you have like an outline, some type of, some kind of worksheet for them, so that they can say A, B, and C, this is what I'm thinking. But you still have to do that work before you sit down with that graphic designer so that she knows and has a better he knows and has a better understanding of what you're looking for, what this symbolism is, what this represents for you, how this is going to impact or resonate with your client. So we're going to help the emerging entrepreneur really, really, really understand these basics before they get to, oh, I'm going to start this business. Because a lot of times, if you don't understand that hobby or that passion is going to stay just that. And you're not going to be able to monetize off of that because you haven't done the groundwork.
Yes. Oh, so that's a perfect word for it, the groundwork. Yeah. And that's not to say, and I will just put this quick thing in here. That's not to say that you're not going to find somebody who designs that won't make it for you. But here's the thing. They're probably just getting it done for you. Because I'm telling you, if you don't have that stuff down, anybody can put an image and some words and type out your name. That's not design. That's like doing it on Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. Yeah.
There is a huge difference. And I want to jump in here too, because you have to know your demographic. Like for us, when we look at our demographic, we have to look at, are our consumers concerned about brands, or are they concerned about product and service? And those are two distinctly different things. So these are the things we are going to be talking about and addressing for the emerging entrepreneur. Why? Because again, as business owners ourselves, we want to save you time, effort, and energy, money. That is our goal. Those are huge things. When you become an entrepreneur, Jen and I know what time, energy, and effort and money look like in relation to being an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of that can be saved and utilized more wisely when you're an efficient emerging entrepreneur. So, all right. Shall we dig into like our topic? Because I love this question.
Oh, me too. Yes, let's do it.
Okay. All right. If you have any comments as we're going through this, please throw them out there. We want to hear from you. Okay. So here it is. The gist of it is, can't stop thinking about your ex, ? The next part of it is the actual question that we received. And that is, I have a girlfriend and love her very much. However, I still think about a past girlfriend that just holds a dear place in my heart. I can't tell my current girlfriend about these feelings and don't really want to, but I feel like I'm hiding something from her. Should I tell her? Question mark. Okay. I guess I'll just jump right in.
Go for it.
All right.
You have a hot date, so let's go.
I do have a hot date. I have a hot date. All right. So let's address the first part of this here, folks. And the question is, why can't you stop thinking about the ex, right? So, which might help when you're thinking about whether you should communicate this with your current partner. So these are some of the things I really, really want you to think about. And I actually wrote them down because I don't want to miss these steps. Yeah. So whether or not a breakup was mutual will really impact whether or not you're thinking about your ex, right? So it was a relationship that was meaningful and intimate at a certain period or time, maybe in the beginning, maybe in the middle, maybe at the end, maybe throughout the whole relationship, but for some reason, it just didn't work out. So of course, you're going to be thinking about an ex because relationships are relationships. It's human behavior, it's human connection. So it's hard to let some of these go. There may also be things that trigger you from that relationship, such as music, food, some kind of ritual you establish with that ex, a scent, a fragrance, a certain time of the year, or you may see something on social media about the ex. These things will trigger you. So get clear about how you feel about the ex. Dig deep and understand your feelings before you ever tell that significant other, that new person in your life, any of these feelings. Get clear about your own feelings. You haven't fully let go or are grieving from that relationship. Understand if you're still grieving. We go through grieving process. I know even with friends that I've lost, or that I've separated from, that I've been friends with for a long time. There are times when I went through grieving processes, and those were friends, not even significant others in regards to intimate relationships, but those were deep, meaningful relationships as well. And you might be idealizing your relationship and only thinking about the good times. Oh my gosh, how many times have we done that?
And that's so dangerous. That's another topic. But yeah, because you're hanging on to that stuff instead of the reality of everything that was involved.
Totally. Oh my gosh, totally. The example is, and I'm going to put this out there, pregnancy. It is such a special time, but there's a lot of pain. Jen, I'm sure you can speak to this.
There's even pain after the pregnancy. I mean, even just when you're in pregnancy, when you're in labor, the kid comes out. I mean, there's pain after that. It's just, yeah. I love what you said about how women or supposedly forget the pain, and I'm like,
yeah, it's like they don't realize it. So it's like, okay, it was a really special moment. It was really a great bonding time with the kid, the child, the infant, and your maybe significant other. But there's a lot of other things that are involved. And a lot of people tend to, when they get further and further away from the actual event, they then idealize oh, that was so special, I'll do it again.
None of those words ever came out of my mouth. It was amazing that I'm an incredible mom. And it's a miracle that I became a mother. It wasn't the Immaculate Conception, so I would say that.
Oh my gosh. So again, you might not have fully let go of the relationship. You might be idealizing something from the relationship. You may be perseverating over an ex because you're stuck on the emotion or feeling when you think about a certain situation. The emotion or feeling. Emotions or feelings can be really, really strong. So get clear about what you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, what might be unresolved for you. And it may not even be that it's solely that relationship or that loss. It may be that you've had other losses in your life and you just can't let something else go, right? So get clear about your feelings. Get clear about what you're emoting, what you're putting out also in the world in regards to, because of these triggered memories, right? So be clear. And I know it can be hard letting go, but there's going to have to be a point where you can't perseverate, which means you can't focus all of your energy and time on that ex. There's a degree, right, in which we can think about others, especially an ex. And if you're invested fully in thinking about and totally focused on That's not healthy. You're not moving forward. You're stuck in the past. So if you're in a relationship and that's happening, you may not be ready for that current relationship because you have some unresolved issues. You also might be thinking that you could have fixed that relationship. Again, maybe some unresolved issues. It might be that the breakup was that you're not ready, as I said, for this relationship. So there's, as you can see right there's so much to think about even before you get to the question of, should I tell my current relationship or partner about how I'm feeling about my ex? If you're not clear, then don't go down that road.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, because what's that going to prove? What's the point of that? Is that going to hurt somebody? I've heard it many times, like, don't do that, but there's a reason for it. And I like the fact that we're addressing the reasons, because to me, in some instances, it was like, well, I should do that, or I should be honest, or I should, but who said you should when you haven't really clearly thought about why?
Mm-hmm.
Or why you're feeling the way you're feeling, or why you're attached to this ex, or why you're still thinking so much about this other person. What are your thoughts, Jen?
Yeah, we talked about emotional habits.
Yes.
And that's the thing, just the same as we have regular habits. You wake up, you brush your teeth, or you drive the same route when you go to work, and it's just automatic, right? You get into this habit with emotions as well. And so all of a sudden when that stops, and maybe you haven't, like Summer said, you haven't grieved it yet, you all of a sudden find yourself in a new situation. And people haven't processed it. And this happens very often when somebody very, very close to you that you love passes away, right? There are people that have been very close to where, a parent passed away, a family member passed away, and it has been months and years. And sometimes they have not been able to give themselves that time to grieve. Mm-hmm. And so it is same thing with, a breakup. It is some form of grief. It is some form of death, the end of a relationship. And sometimes we don't allow ourselves to process that until dust settles. But here's the crazy part. If you're someone that's constantly running away, constantly in getting involved in another relationship, you have to ask yourself, are you just slapping a Band-Aid on this? Are you just trying to escape? Because is it really that you want that ex, or you're still thinking, there's so many layers to this. And you have to ask yourself, if the current relationship, and always going back to this question, this girlfriend, is she someone that you really want to be with? Because why are you asking yourself, is something I should tell her? Would she get hurt? The fact that you're even asking is saying a lot. And you have to ask yourself, hey, have you given yourself time to grieve? Are you really done? Are you really over? Because the other thing that we discussed a lot as well was, what is the energy behind the words that you're using? Because there's a huge difference between stating something that has happened in the past and just recalling the turn of events. And, for example, I shared, past relationships, how was it? Or, what happened? And it's not and I always make this clear, trust me, this is not me intruding. This is me coming from a place to understand where you came from and what you've had to deal with, so that I better understand how to treat you, or just to be aware of what you've gone through. And so there's a difference between somebody recalling events, right, and just kind of telling the story, versus the longing and the wishing. And we were laughing we were at IG Summer because Viviana talked about Sophie and the chili. And so that joke was that the comment was about, like, does this person that you're with make reference to an ex, a significant partner from the past? Like, well, Sophie's chili was really good.
Or Sophie did it that way. And I said, like, her chili. And I was like, then you obviously don't want your current relationship. You don't want her chili. Because
sure I ain't making you chili. Yeah, that would have been my reaction. Because I'd be like, well, screw that. I'm never making you chili,
And then there was a great comment. Why don't you call the ex and ask her to make you a batch of chili then?
Yeah, you better hope she's on Postmates, because I'm not. You're not going to go get it. So it's just funny. So going back to what we were talking about, is like the energy. What is the energy behind it? Is that person? Is your significant other saying it from a place of like, it reminds you of Meet the Parents, Owen Wilson's character when he was talking about Ben Stiller's fiance, like, oh, what a bobcat. Do you remember that scene? What is the energy? What is the energy behind the words that are being sent? Or is it just a matter of fact, I'm stating what has happened in the past versus, yeah, it was great. And, but, we're not together anymore. So, yeah, oh, well, bygones. And then it's like, wait a minute. There sounds like there's some residual
going on
there. And that's what, she said, that she typed it right here. Somewhere wrote, the energy you're putting in how you talk about your ex is very telling. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that is one of the biggest keys that we need to look at, the energy behind it. Because I don't think it's necessarily wrong, because it's part of our human nature. And I know Scott made a comment when he had posted on Instagram, I think this is part of human nature to have these emotions, which I agree.
Absolutely.
And then here's the thing too, to expect your partner to not ever think about the past or to not ever think about an ex. I think as the other partner, you have to be emotionally mature.
Yeah.
And check yourself if it's an insecurity, if you cannot handle hearing about their past.
Yeah.
Because I see this very often with, men that I've been friends with or dated or whatnot. And they'll be like, yeah, my ex, I couldn't talk about anything because she would just flip out and go oh, well, why don't you still want them? And I'm just like, geez, right? And that's a huge sign of insecurity. So, you got to pay attention if you're dealing with that. But, this is all part of, how do you have a healthy relationship? To be able to, in a very healthy way, in a very vulnerable and open conversation, can you talk about the past without losing your mind and getting mad and jealous?
Well, so, yeah. Let me jump in here too, because I have also spoke with people that felt, maybe because of conditioning, maybe because of upbringing as well, they just felt like, it's not necessary to talk about your past. We don't have to.
Yeah.
It's disrespectful, that kind of thing. And it's, that happens a lot too. And that's a framework that comes from a lot of men as well. So it's, I think it's just, there's a lot of variables because we're human, because we come from different pasts, we come from different experiences. Certain things have been modeled for us in different ways, that it's really interesting when you start talking about relationships, how things can get really muddled. And that's why I think it's so critical to figure out yourself first before you go disclosing whatever it is.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Get clear with yourself about your feelings and your thoughts. Because why? Check yourself. Get clear with yourself. Because why are you giving that information when you might just end up be all over the place? It's going to be like mixed soup, right? And it's going to be like really ugly, and it's like a really bad recipe, and it's like, ooh, that tastes horrible, right?
And he ain't going to be asked to hear chili. Yeah, and that's what's so funny, because Sir Michael did mention that, and he's on our IG platform, and he did mention that he went on a speed date, and there was a woman who gave her entire life story in like 3 minutes or something like that, and yeah, you got to be careful. Yeah, you're not throwing up all over the person.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. So there's like a balance, right? But I firmly believe that it goes back to getting clear with yourself, understanding why you're feeling the way you're feeling, why those emotions are being elicited, why you're tapping into them so often. There is a range of how much, because that's what we call perseveration. When you're just focused and you can't get past it, and that's going to create anxiety, and that's going to create depression for folks if that's all they think about. So yes, please.
I wanted to add something, because I know you got a list that I would love for you to get as well. I wanted to also add, for the person that is not proliferating on the X.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is important to also add, like if you are somebody that's comfortable about asking about somebody's past, because I have run into this where the person is being apologetic, like, I don't mean, well, the person in my life, what do I mean? I'm not trying to compare. And I have to always make it clear and communicate very clearly. I know you're not comparing me. This is your past. And I make it very clear. And I give, not literally like, hey, you can talk about it. But I make it clear, like, you have permission to talk about this. I'm not going to go flip out, scream at you and get jealous. And it's very interesting because I can tell it's almost like somebody that's gone through, because I'm watching This Is Us and I saw this scene last night where the little girl flinched like this because she was so used to being physically abused.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Happening. And I see that happen when I start to go into these things. Sometimes the guy will be like, well, I don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, why? Oh, well, because my ex, she would always get mad when I talked about other women. I'm like, well, I'm not your ex.
Yeah.
Like, I am a different person. But especially in the beginnings of a relationship, you have to make it clear and let the other person know, like, it's okay. You have to almost, in a sense, give permission that this is a safe place. It's okay to have open conversation, because how else am I going to know about that person if I'm going to uphold these quote unquote standards if you don't talk about those things? It's like, and I think this is somewhere, and I'm trying not to segue. I think this is why we're in such a messed up society, because we have been taught not to talk about money, not to talk about religion, not to talk about these types of things. And then it becomes this bubble of secrecy. And then we have to have these like behind the scenes conversations. And then you wonder why people are so lost and confused. So
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that, Jen. And I think we definitely need to talk about it with some compassion, understanding, because it was part of your life, right? It's just a matter of how much you're invested in that. And I go back to degrees, right? So it's going to be that we're going to talk about our past relationships with our parents, but you even our significant others, or whatever the case may be, because you also want to get to know how that person functions, right? But if they're stuck there, you're going to know it. If they're stuck there, you're going to see it in their behavior. If they're stuck there, so be attuned to that. And yes, you do need to communicate that. But what I'm saying is, please be aware of what you're trying to communicate. Know what you're trying to communicate before you do, because you might be going down a road and getting yourself into a situation where you actually really love this person that you're with, but the way you communicate it they could be seeing that you're just emotionally connected with this other person still.
Yeah.
And that could be very difficult for that person to digest and understand. And so, there's so many different factors, and I've seen all kinds of people talk about it in different ways. So these are just some guidelines that we're giving here to kind of think about when you're thinking about, do I address this with them? Mm-hmm. So, but I'd say get clear with yourself. There are also a multitude of reasons you're not letting go or focused on your ex, but what you can think about before you tell your ex about your feelings is, and I'm going to go down this list really quickly, okay? Because we still have got to do this before 1 minute. Explore these unresolved feelings and determine where they're coming from. Get clear on these feelings, where they're coming from. Are you feeling a loss because you feel like you failed the relationship? And if so, think about how you can work this out. Think about how you can work on the next relationship, because you certainly don't want to take those things into that next relationship. That's not healthy, right? So, and then it may mean that you're not ready to jump into another relationship until you understand what happened and how you might be able to work on yourself and the root cause of your loss. Whatever that is, work on yourself. Again, it's a tip to work on yourself. The last thing is, being fixated or spending a lot of time thinking about a relationship from the past will keep you from moving beyond your past. So it'll keep you from actually creating a meaningful and mutual and respectful relationship with somebody. And you then are taking away your time, effort, and energy into putting into that new relationship. And let me tell you, relationships, like everything else, is an investment. And if you're not ready to invest and you keep taking out and taking out and taking out, you're not starting on a good foot. You're not starting on good ground. Understand what you want to invest in. Get really clear with yourself about how you want to do that, because those boundaries, that understanding just within yourself will make it more clear as to whether or not that person wants to invest in that commitment with you. And as we mention all the time, Jen, what do we talk about? Values.
Yes, all the time.
Oh my gosh. And you can speak to that if you'd like, because I know you brought it up.
Yeah. We had somebody. Thank you. Yeah, we had somebody on Instagram, and she was in a situation, and it's very, very new. And so she was kind of asking for advice. And basically what Summer and I went back to was, if you don't have your core values down, how are you going to make a decision whether you should continue to invest into this new relationship? Because a lot of times what happens is people don't know what they want, and then they get into it, they get involved with somebody, and there's going to be things that show up, that pop up, things happen, and then we have this thing that plays in our mind that says like, oh, we'll give it a chance, we'll see what happens, well, it's not that bad, and then there's nothing guiding you. And that's where it gets so dangerous, because you look back and you're just like, I wasted, what did we say we didn't want to waste? Time, energy, and effort. And I'm going to throw in there money, because dates are not free all the time. I mean, you can do a lot of free stuff, but not everything is free. So, you know, if you don't have these core values down, there is nothing guiding you to make a determination that's right for you. You don't have boundaries set up. There's nothing guiding you whether to tell you yes, stay, or no, leave.
Right. Oh, yeah. Boom. Gauntlet throw down. All right. So we are going to go to our nugget.
Yay!
Woo! All right, Jen, jump right in.
So my nugget of the day is to remember your self-worth. I think a lot of times when we're in these relationships, we fall into the trap of compromising in a negative way. I mean, there's some compromise, but when I'm talking about compromising, I mean almost to the detriment where you're giving up your values, you're so self-sacrificing to an unhealthy point. Boundaries, your personal boundaries are not, they're not even there anymore. And I think we lose ourselves sometimes when we're in these relationships, and then we're floundering and we don't know what we're doing anymore because we're trying to save it. And then we start questioning like, oh, I don't know, how come this person doesn't want me? Like, how come, you know, and then we're just kind of reaching. We're trying to just do all these things to make it work when you haven't stopped to remember your self-worth and what you stand for, what your values are. And then the answer isn't as clear that really you should just be walking away. And that's not always a bad thing. So my nugget of the day is to remember your self-worth.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Let me write this down. Remember your self. So important. Your self-worth. Okay. So my nugget of the day is do not compromise your values. Don't do it. Don't do it. One of the things that we find when you do start compromising your values and you stop setting up boundaries, because we all need them, right? You become further and further, you grow further and further apart from yourself and who you are. And then one day you look at yourself and go, where did I go in all of this?
Done.
No. No. Do not compromise those values. Understand what they are. Excuse me. Here's a tip, folks. If you want a core values worksheet, go to the Life, Love, and Money Collective. We got a lot of freebies under guides in that collective. Go there now. Check it out. This will help you determine your values. This comes from my book. My book is all about understanding your personal values and beliefs.
Yes.
Go there.
My copy is usually around here. So
oh my gosh. I got a copy right here.
There it is.
Right here.
Page 57.
Woo, 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 woo. Personal values and beliefs. Got to know them because they align with everything that you do. They make life so much easier once you know them. Seriously. All right. Those are my parting words. With that said, thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us, especially if you're catching the replay. So make sure to go to YouTube and subscribe to our show. And with that said, we are out.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great Thursday. Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Dr. Summer Watson is the owner of the production and coaching company Core Women, LLC, is a doctor of psychology, has a depth of experience working in both for-profit and nonprofit in human services and mental health, is a professional coach, seminar host, documentary film producer, and an author. Jen Fontanilla is a former financial advisor and now a certified money coach, speaker, and has published 6 books. She has worked with organizations such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, and the U.S. Air Force. She loves working with women and helps them master their money and mindset to empower them to build the ultimate life without worrying about money. Join Summer and Jen every week as they go live on the Life, Love and Money Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn.